The showroom of Prestige Royal Motors was a cathedral of capitalism. The air inside didn't smell like the city outside. It smelled of hand-stitched Italian leather, premium tire wax, and old money. In the center of the white marble floor, bathed in the glow of 12 halogen spotlights, sat the altar, the Aurora X1. It was a midnight black hypercar worth $3.5 million. It was the only one of its kind on the East Coast. Thick red velvet ropes surrounded it, creating a barrier that screamed a silent command. Look, but do not touch. A brass sign stood guard, private viewing only. But on this Tuesday morning, the rules were being broken. Inside the ropes, kneeling on the pristine marble, was a 12-year-old black boy named Jaden. Jaden looked like a mistake in this luxurious world. He wasn't wearing a suit or uniform. He was drowning in an oversized, grease-stained industrial mechanics jumpsuit. The sleeves were rolled up to reveal his hands, and his scuffed white sneakers squeaked against the expensive floor. In his hand, Jaden held a bright yellow microfiber polishing cloth. He moved with the focus of a surgeon, gently buffing a microscopic speck of dust from the carbon fiber rim. He hummed a soft tune, lost in his admiration for the machine. For Jaden, this wasn't work, it was love. He knew every bolt of this car. He felt a sense of pride that swelled in his chest. But in the shallow world of Prestige Royal Motors, pride was a luxury reserved for the rich. And Jaden's peace was about to be shattered. The heavy glass doors burst open with a violence that made the receptionist jump. The sharp, aggressive click-clack of expensive high heels echoed like gunfire. Mrs. Sterling had arrived. If arrogance had a face, it was hers. She swept in like a hurricane wrapped in leopard print, clutching a designer handbag worth more than a car. She was barking into her gold-plated phone, oblivious to the quiet sanctity of the showroom. "I don't care what the contractor says," she screamed. "I want the imported marble. If he uses domestic, I will sue him into oblivion." She hung up and marched toward the manager's office. She was here to buy a convertible, and she expected the red carpet. But as she passed the center display, she stopped dead. She lowered her sunglasses, her eyes widening in horror. She saw Jaden. She saw a black child in dirty clothes touching the $3 million inventory. "Excuse me." The scream tore through the showroom. Jaden jumped, clutching his rag to his chest. He saw the woman looming over the velvet rope, her face twisted in disgust. "Oh, hello, ma'am," Jaden stammered. "I was just—" "Get away from that car," Mrs. Sterling shrieked. She ducked under the rope, violating the boundary she was screaming about. She stormed up to Jaden, towering over him. "Are you insane? This is a masterpiece. And you look at you." She sneered at his grease-stained knees. "You are filthy. You're getting your poverty all over the paint. Who let you in here? Did you sneak in through the loading dock?" Jaden stepped back, pressing against the car. "Ma'am, please. I'm supposed to be here. I'm polishing the rims. I'm working. Mrs. Sterling laughed cruelly. "You think a dealership like this hires a child like you to touch a hypercar? Don't lie to me. You're a delinquent. You're probably scratching it right now with that dirty rag." Before Jaden could react, she snatched the yellow cloth from his hand. "Hey, that's my equipment." Jaden cried. "It's trash," Mrs. Sterling yelled. She threw the cloth onto the floor. With a look of malice, she ground her sharp red heel into the fabric, destroying it. "There, now you can't ruin anything else." She turned and screamed at the top of her lungs. "Manager, we have a security breach." Mr. Richards, the floor manager, came running out of his office. He was a sweaty, nervous man who lived in fear of losing his commission. We saw his biggest client screaming near a kid in dirty clothes. He panicked. He didn't recognize Jaden, who usually worked in the back garage. He just saw a liability. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm so sorry." Richards panted. "What is happening?" I found this street urchin mauling the Aurora, she lied. He was scratching it. Look at him, Richard. Does he look like he belongs here? If you don't throw him out right now, I'm taking my business to Lamborghini. And I will tell everyone at the country club that you let criminals play in your cars. The threat hit Richard hard. He turned on Jaden instantly, his face hardening. Hey, you. The game is over, Richard snapped. I don't know who you are, but you are leaving. Now. But sir, Jaden said firmly, if you just call the owner. I set out. Richard shouted. He reached out and grabbed Jaden by the loose fabric of his jumpsuit. He didn't guide him. He yanked him. Jaden stumbled, humiliated. Richards began dragging him toward the exit. Let go of me, Jaden cried, trying to pull away. I'm escorting you out before I call the police. Richards yelled. Mrs. Sterling watched with a satisfied smirk, crossing her arms like a queen watching an execution. Other customers watched, filming on their phones, but nobody helped. Jaden was alone. But as they reached the glass doors, something inside Jaden snapped. Not in anger, but in resolve. He dug his heels into the marble floor. He planted his feet with a strength that surprised the manager. Moo! Richards grunted. No, Jaden said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the noise. Richard stopped, confused. Jaden looked up at him with a gaze that was terrifyingly mature. Take your hands off me, Jaden said. Excuse me? Richard sputtered. I said, take your hands off me, Jaden repeated, his voice rising. Because if you throw me out those doors, if you push me out of this building, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. Mrs. Sterling burst into laughter. Oh, listen to him. He's threatening us. What are you going to do, kid? Call your mommy? Throw rocks at the window? Jaden shook his arm free. He brushed off his sleeve as if wiping away dirt. He looked right through Mrs. Sterling's sunglasses. No, Jaden said coolly. I'm going to call my dad. Your dad? Mrs. Sterling mocked. Is he the janitor? Does he drive the garbage truck? Tell him to come pick you up. Jaden didn't speak. He reached into his deep pocket. The room went silent. He pulled out a set of keys. But not just any keys. They were heavy, black carbon fiber with the silver Prestige Royal crest. He pressed a button. Chirp, chirp. The sound came from the center of the room. The lights of the $3 million Aurora X. One flashed twice, blindingly bright. The futuristic butterfly doors hissed and lifted into the air automatically. The silence was suffocating. Mr. Richards' jaw dropped. Mrs. Sterling's sunglasses slid down her nose. Jaden tossed the keys in the air, caught them, and smiled. No, Jaden said. He doesn't drive the garbage truck. He owns the building. And, judging by the limousine pulling up outside, he just arrived to check on his investment. The silence that followed Jaden's declaration was heavier than the $3 million car behind him. He owns the building. The words hung in the air, echoing off the cold marble walls. Mrs. Sterling blinked, her brain struggling to process the information. Mr. Richards, the manager, looked from the boy to the flashing lights of the Aurora X1, and then out the window to the massive black limousine parked at the curb. For a moment, nobody moved. It was a tableau of pure shock. Then, the heavy glass doors of the showroom swung open again. But this time, there was no aggressive clicking of heels. This time, the entrance was silent, commanding, and terrifying. Two large men in dark suits entered first, security detail. They scanned the room with professional indifference, their earpieces coiling down their necks. They held the doors open, and then Mr. Marcus Kingsley walked in. He was a giant of a man, standing 6'4", with broad shoulders that filled out his bespoke Italian suit perfectly. He was a black man with a presence that sucked the oxygen out of the room. He didn't wear flashy jewelry like Mrs. Sterling. He didn't need to. His power was in his posture and the calm, dangerous stillness of his face. He walked with the effortless grace of a man who owned not just the building, but the entire city block. Mr. Richards felt his knees turn to jelly. He knew who this was. Everyone in the automotive industry knew Marcus Kingsley. He was a legend, a self-made billionaire who had started as a mechanic and built a global empire of luxury dealerships. He was known for two things: his impeccable standards and his zero-tolerance policy for incompetence. Richard swallowed hard, his throat dry. He looked at Jaden, who was still standing calmly by the car. Panic clawed at Richard's throat. The kid has the keys. How does the kid have the keys? Did he steal them? Yes, that must be it. He's a master thief. Richards decided in a split second that he had to control the narrative. He had to be the hero who caught the intruder. Mr. Kingsley, Richards shouted, his voice cracking as he rushed forward, practically tripping over his own feet to intercept the owner. Sir, thank goodness you're here. We have a situation. A code red. Mr. Kingsley stopped. He looked down at the sweating, frantic manager. His expression remained unreadable, like stone. A situation? Mr. Kingsley asked. His voice was deep, a low rumble that vibrated in the chest. Yes, sir. A security breach. Richards pointed a trembling finger at Jaden. We caught this street kid breaking into the showroom. He snuck in past security. I found him mauling the Aurora X1. He was scratching the paint, trying to pry off the emblems. Mrs. Sterling, sensing an opportunity to align herself with power, stepped forward, adjusting her fur coat and putting on her most charming, victimized smile. It's true, Mr. Kingsley, she chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. I'm absolutely traumatized. I came here to purchase a vehicle. I'm a platinum client, you see, and I walked in on this hooligan vandalizing your masterpiece. It was terrifying. He was aggressive. He threatened us. Mr. Kingsley's eyes moved slowly from Richards to Mrs. Sterling. He didn't blink. He threatened you? He did. Mrs. Sterling nodded vigorously. He refused to leave. Mr. Richards here was brave enough to try and escort him out, but the boy resisted. He made threats, and then, somehow, he hacked the car. He has some kind of device that opened the doors. He's obviously part of a professional car theft ring. Richards nodded frantically. Exactly, sir. He stole a set of master keys. I was just about to call the police and have him arrested. I held him here until you arrived, so you could see the damage yourself. Mr. Kingsley turned his head slowly. He looked past the sweating manager. He looked past the preening woman in the leopard coat. His gaze landed on Jaden. Jaden hadn't moved. He stood by the open door of the Aurora, his hands in the pockets of his dirty, gray jumpsuit. He didn't look scared anymore. He looked disappointed. Mr. Kingsley walked past Richards without a word. He walked past Mrs. Sterling as if she were a ghost. He walked straight up to the boy. Richards smirked internally. Here it comes, he thought. The boss is going to destroy this kid. He's going to crush him. Mrs. Sterling pulled out her phone, ready to record the justice. Get him, she whispered. Mr. Kingsley stopped 2 feet in front of Jaden. The size difference was massive. The billionaire towered over the boy in the dirty clothes. Is this true? Mr. Kingsley asked. His voice was quiet, intimate. Did you break in here? Did you threaten these people? Jaden looked up at the man. He didn't flinch. I didn't break in, Jaden said softly. I used the side door code you gave me, and I didn't threaten them. I just told them they would regret throwing me out. In the car, Mr. Kingsley asked, glancing at the $3 million machine. They say you scratched it. I was polishing the rear rim, Jaden said, pointing to the wheel. There was a speck of dust. I used the yellow microfiber, but Jaden pointed at Mrs. Sterling. She threw it on the floor and stepped on it. Mr. Kingsley looked at the floor. He saw the ruined, dirty yellow cloth, crushed under the imprint of a high heel. His jaw tightened. A small muscle in his cheek twitched. He turned back to Jaden. He reached out a massive hand. Mr. Richards held his breath. He's going to grab him. He's going to restrain him. But Mr. Kingsley didn't grab the boy. He gently reached out and touched Jaden's arm. The same arm Mr. Richards had yanked moments ago. He rolled up the loose sleeve of the gray jumpsuit. There, on Jaden's forearm, were red, angry marks. Fingerprints. Bruises beginning to form where the manager had dug his nails in. Mr. Kingsley stared at the bruises. The temperature in the room seemed to drop below freezing. The silence was now terrified. Who did this? Mr. Kingsley whispered. It wasn't a question. It was a growl. Jaden didn't say anything. He just looked at Mr. Richards. Mr. Kingsley slowly turned around. The calm mask was gone. In its place was the cold, hard fury of a father who has just seen his child hurt. Richards, Mr. Kingsley said. Why, yes, sir. Richards squeaked. You said you tried to escort him out. I did, sir. I had to. He was trespassing. He was a danger to the inventory. I used necessary force to protect your assets. My assets, Mr. Kingsley repeated. He let out a dark, humorless laugh. You think that car is my greatest asset? He walked back toward Richards. The manager shrank back, hitting the reception desk. You idiot, Mr. Kingsley said, his voice rising, booming off the walls. You moron. You didn't protect my assets. You assaulted the only thing in this building that matters more to me than money. Mr. Kingsley turned back to the boy and opened his arms wide. Come here, son. Jaden walked into his father's arms. Mr. Kingsley hugged him tight, ignoring the grease on the jumpsuit that stained his $3,000 Italian jacket. He held the boy close, kissing the top of his head. I'm sorry, Dad. Jaden mumbled into his father's chest. I just wanted to make it shine for you. I know, Jaden. I know. Mr. Kingsley released his son, keeping a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. He turned back to the two adults who were now standing frozen, their faces drained of all color. Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Richards, Mr. Kingsley said, his voice dripping with ice. I would like you to meet Jaden Kingsley, my son, and a future owner of this company. The drop was instantaneous. Mrs. Sterling's expensive handbag slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a dull thud. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked from the street urchin to the billionaire, seeing the resemblance in their eyes, the shape of their jaw. Mr. Richards looked like he was going to vomit. He looked at the bruises on the boy's arm, bruises he had put there. He looked at the owner. He realized, with a sickening clarity, that his life as he knew it was over. You are your son, Richards whispered, but he's wearing, he looks like a worker? Mr. Kingsley cut him off. Yes, because I teach my son the value of hard work. I teach him that respect is earned, not bought. He comes here on weekends to learn the business from the ground up. He cleans the cars so he learns to appreciate them. Mr. Kingsley stepped closer to Mrs. Sterling, looming over her. And you, he said, looking at her with profound disappointment. You judge him based on his clothes? You stepped on his tools? You call him trash? I didn't know. Mrs. Sterling stammered, backing away, her heels clicking nervously. Mr. Kingsley, please. It was a misunderstanding. He looked. Well, look at him. How was I supposed to know he was your son? If I had known, I would have treated him with the utmost respect. And that, Jaden said, speaking up for the first time, his voice strong and clear. That is exactly the problem. Jaden stepped forward, standing next to his father. He looked like a king in training. You shouldn't respect me because of who my father is, Jaden said. You should respect me because I'm a human being. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was poor. And now you want to be nice because you know I'm rich? That's not respect, ma'am. That's hypocrisy. Mr. Kingsley smiled down at his son. It was a smile of pure pride. Well said, son. Mr. Kingsley turned his gaze back to Mr. Richards. The manager was shaking uncontrollably. Richards, Mr. Kingsley said softly, do you remember the core value of Prestige Royal Motors? The one hanging on the plaque in the break room. Respect for everyone, Richards whispered. Respect for everyone, Mr. Kingsley repeated. Not just the rich, not just the people in suits. Everyone, the janitor, the mechanic, the child polishing the rims. Mr. Kingsley pointed to the door. Give me your badge, Richards. Sir, please. Richards begged, tears welling in his eyes. I have a mortgage. I have kids. It was a mistake. I was just trying to make a sale. Mrs. Sterling threatened to leave. I did it for the company. You put your hands on my son, Mr. Kingsley said, his voice final. You bruised him. You humiliated him. You didn't do it for the company. You did it because you are a weak man who bullies children to please tyrants. Mr. Kingsley held out his hand. Badge. Now, with trembling hands, Mr. Richards unclipped his ID badge. He placed it in Mr. Kingsley's hand. He looked at Jaden, pleading silently for mercy. Jaden just looked away. Get out, Mr. Kingsley said, and don't bother asking for a reference. If anyone calls me about you, I will tell them exactly what kind of man you are. Richards hung his head. He walked past the Aurora X1, past the velvet ropes, and out the glass doors of Broken Man. The showroom was silent again. Now it was just Mr. Kingsley, Jaden, and Mrs. Sterling. Mrs. Sterling chuckled nervously, picking up her bag. She tried to flash a winning smile, though her lip was quivering. Well, she said, forcing a bright tone, now that the unpleasantness is removed. Mr. Kingsley, I am still very interested in that convertible. I'm ready to pay cash. Full asking price. Maybe we can forget this little mix-up and do business. Mr. Kingsley looked at her. He looked at Jaden. He looked at the ruined yellow rag on the floor. Jaden, Mr. Kingsley said, this is your showroom today. What do you think? Should we sell Mrs. Sterling a car? Jaden looked at the woman who had called him a street urchin. He looked at the car she wanted. He smiled. No, Dad, Jaden said. I don't think she fits the brand. The atmosphere in the showroom had shifted tectonically. Moments ago, the air was thick with the frantic energy of Mr. Richards trying to save his job. Now it was cold, absolute, terrifying zero. The kind of silence that usually precedes a natural disaster. Jaden's words hung in the air, echoing off the high, vaulted ceilings. I don't think she fits the brand. It was a simple sentence, spoken by a 12-year-old boy in a dirty, grease-stained jumpsuit. But it carried the weight of a final verdict. Mrs. Sterling blinked. Her brain, which had been wired for decades to believe that money could solve any problem and silence any critic, simply couldn't process the rejection. She looked at the boy. Then she looked up at his billionaire father, Marcus Kingsley, whose face was as unreadable as a granite statue. She let out a short, incredulous laugh. It sounded like a bark, sharp, nervous, and utterly devoid of humor. Excuse me? She scoffed, clutching her pearl necklace as if checking to make sure it was still there. You don't think I fit the brand? Is this a joke? Are we on a hidden camera show? She turned her body fully toward Mr. Kingsley, deliberately turning her back on Jaden, dismissing him as if he were a piece of furniture. Mr. Kingsley, surely you are a rational businessman, she said, her voice dripping with a sickly sweet condescension. Your son is cute. Really. Very spirited. It's adorable that you let him play boss on the weekends. But let's be adults here. I am standing here ready to write a cashier's check for $350,000 for that convertible. Right now. Today. She took a step closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. You aren't actually going to let a child's bruised ego cost you a sale of that magnitude, are you? That would be bad business. And I know you didn't become a billionaire by making bad business decisions. Mr. Kingsley looked down at Mrs. Sterling. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked at her with the same detached curiosity one might have when observing a cockroach scuttling across a dinner plate. He reached into the inner pocket of his bespoke Italian jacket and slowly withdrew a slim, black tablet. He didn't speak immediately. He tapped the screen a few times, his fingers moving with precise, deliberate lethargy. He scrolled through lines of data, the blue light of the screen reflecting in his dark eyes. "Mrs. Sterling," Mr. Kingsley finally said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the floor. "You're correct about one thing. I'm a businessman. I track every metric. I analyze every data point." He turned the tablet slightly so she could see the glow, but not the text. "According to our CRM system, you have purchased 7 vehicles from us in the last 10 years. Mr. Kingsley recited from memory, not even looking at the screen. "Total expenditure, $2.4 million. You're classified in our system as a diamond tier client. You get priority servicing, invitations to private galas, and birthday gifts sent to your estate." Mrs. Sterling smirked, her confidence flooding back. She crossed her arms, shooting a triumphant, nasty glare over her shoulder at Jaden. "See?" Her eyes said, "Money talks, kid. You're just noise." "Exactly," she said, smoothing the lapel of her leopard print coat. "I am a pillar of your customer base. So let's stop this nonsense. Have one of your other salesmen, one who isn't incompetent like that sweating fool Richards, draw up the paperwork. And honestly, Marcus, I expect a significant discount for the emotional distress I've suffered today. Being yelled at by a janitor, it's shaken me." Mr. Kingsley tapped the screen one final time. A large, red alert box flashed on the display. "I'm afraid a discount won't be possible," Mr. Kingsley said softly. "In fact, the sale won't be possible." "What do you mean?" Mrs. Sterling asked, her smile faltering. "I mean that I just closed your account," Mr. Kingsley said. "Closed my account. Deleted. Erased. Terminated." Mr. Kingsley turned the tablet around fully. The screen displayed her profile photo, a professional headshot where she looked smug, overlaid with a massive red stamp that read, "Blacklisted. Do not service." Mrs. Sterling stared at the screen. The color drained from her face so fast it looked like she might faint. You can't do that," she stammered. "I'm a diamond client." "Not anymore," Mr. Kingsley said, taking a step closer. He loomed over her, his shadow swallowing her up. "And it's not just here at Prestige Royal Motors. You see, Mrs. Sterling, I think you forgot the scope of my operation. I don't just own this building. I own the entire Kingsley Automotive Group." He began to list them, ticking them off on his fingers, each one a nail in the coffin of her social status. "We operate 42 dealerships across the tri-state area. We own the local Mercedes franchise, the BMW Center, the Porsche dealership, the Audi showroom, even the Range Rover dealer you visit for your husband's cars. And just for good measure, we own the Honda and Toyota dealerships down the highway, too." He paused, letting the silence stretch until it was painful. "I have just pushed a global update to our central server. Your name, your husband's name, your home address, and your driver's license number have been flagged. If you walk into any of those 42 buildings, the security system will silently alert the staff to escort you off the premises." Mrs. Sterling gasped, clutching her chest. "You're banning me? From everywhere? But where am I supposed to buy a car? Where am I supposed to get my vehicles serviced? I hear there's a used car lot next to the junkyard on 8th Street, Mr. Kingsley said, his face completely deadpan. "They take cash. I think that fits your new brand perfectly." The insult hit her like a physical slap. Mrs. Sterling began to tremble. It wasn't just fear, it was the explosive, chaotic rage of a narcissist who is being told no for the first time in her life. Her face turned a blotchy, ugly purple. The mask of civility shattered into a million pieces. "You will regret this," she shrieked, her voice cracking and rising to a banshee wail. She flailed her arms, her expensive bracelets jangling wildly. "Do you hear me, Marcus Kingsley? I will destroy you. I will ruin this company. I know people. I know senators. I know judges." She spun around, pointing a shaking finger at Jaden, then back at his father. "I will go to the press. I will call the TV stations. I will tell everyone that Marcus Kingsley is a petty, vindictive tyrant who lets his bratty, dirty little son run his business into the ground. I will paint you as a monster. I will sue you for discrimination. I will take everything you have." "Go ahead," a calm voice said. Mrs. Sterling froze. She spun around to look at Jaden. The boy hadn't moved. He was leaning casually against the rear fender of the $3 million Aurora X. His arms crossed over his chest. He didn't look scared. He didn't look angry. He looked amused. "Go ahead and tell them," Jaden said, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "Call the news. Call the police. Call the president if you want. But when you tell your story, don't forget to mention one small detail." "What detail?" Mrs. Sterling hissed. "Don't forget to mention that there are security cameras in this showroom," Jaden said. He pointed a grease-stained finger up toward the corner of the ceiling. Mrs. Sterling looked up. High in the corner, a small, black dome camera blinked with a tiny red light. It was staring directly at them. "4K resolution," Jaden continued, his voice smooth and confident, "with high-fidelity directional audio and cloud backup." Mrs. Sterling's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "We have everything on tape, Mrs. Sterling," Jaden said, walking slowly toward her. "We have you screaming at me when I was on my knees polishing the car. We have you calling me a street urchin. We have you snatching my cloth. We have you stepping on it and grinding your heel into the floor. We have you threatening the manager. And we definitely have you screaming threats at my father just now." Jaden stopped right in front of her. He looked her dead in the eye. "So please, go to the press. My dad's marketing team would love to release that footage. They're always looking for viral content. I bet it would get 10 million views by tomorrow morning. Imagine what your friends at the country club will say when they see the real Vanessa Sterling going viral as the Karen of the Year." The blood drained from Mrs. Sterling's face so completely that she looked like a corpse. She swayed on her heels. She realized, with a sickening, hollow feeling in her gut, that she was trapped. If that video got out, it wouldn't just be an inconvenience. It would be social suicide. Her husband's investors would drop him. Her charity boards would kick her off. She would be a pariah. She looked at Mr. Kingsley. He was checking his watch, looking bored, as if wondering what he should have for lunch. She looked at Jaden. He was brushing a piece of lint off his sleeve, utterly unimpressed by her presence. She was defeated, totally, utterly dismantled by a child she had tried to crush. Mrs. Sterling snatched her leopard print coat tighter around herself, trying to hide her shaking hands. She looked around the room. The other customers, who had stopped shopping to watch the drama, were holding up their phones. They were recording her. I am leaving," she announced shrilly, her voice cracking. "And I'm never coming back to this dump." "That's the idea," Mr. Kingsley called out after her. She turned on her heel, her red-bottomed shoes clicking frantically against the marble. Click-clack, click-clack. But this time, the rhythm wasn't confident. It was erratic. It was the sound of a retreat. She stumbled slightly near the door, catching herself on the frame, before pushing through the heavy glass and bursting out onto the sidewalk. Through the large glass windows, Jaden watched her. He saw her trying to hail a taxi because her limo driver wasn't there. He saw her trip on the curb. He saw the pedestrians pointing and whispering. Inside the showroom, the silence returned. But this time it wasn't cold. It was warm. It was the silence of relief. Slowly, the receptionist, who had been hiding behind her computer monitor, stood up. She started to clap. Then the other salesman joined in. Then the mechanic who had come out from the back. Then the customers. A wave of applause filled the showroom. It wasn't polite golf clapping. It was genuine, enthusiastic cheering. Mr. Kingsley let out a long sigh, his shoulders relaxing from their defensive posture. He turned to Jaden, a softness entering his eyes that the world rarely saw. "You handle that well, son," he said, putting a heavy, comforting hand on Jaden's shoulder. "I mean it. You held your ground. You didn't lose your temper. You spoke the truth." Jaden looked up at his dad, a hint of worry creasing his forehead. "But, Dad, we just lost a $300,000 sale, and a customer who spends millions. Was it worth it?" Mr. Kingsley knelt down on one knee, ignoring the fact that his expensive suit trousers were touching the floor. He wanted to be eye level with his son. "Jaden, look at me," he said seriously. "Look at your jumpsuit." Jaden looked down. "It's filthy," he mumbled. "I got grease on the knees and on my nose." Mr. Kingsley chuckled, reaching out to wipe a smudge of oil from Jaden's cheek with his thumb. "It comes with the job," he smiled. "But that jumpsuit, that dirt, it taught you something today that money can never buy. Do you know what the lesson is?" Jaden thought for a moment. He looked at the empty spot where Mr. Richards had stood, the man who had sold his soul for a commission. He looked at the door where Mrs. Sterling had fled, the woman who thought her bank account made her a queen. "That money doesn't buy class?" Jaden asked. "That's part of it," Mr. Kingsley said, nodding. "But the real lesson is this. Character is what you do when you think nobody is watching." He gestured to the car. "You polished this car with love and care, even when you thought you were just a nobody in a dirty uniform. You treated the machine with respect. Richards and Sterling? They showed their true colors when they thought they had power over you. They thought nobody was watching who mattered. But someone is always watching, Jaden. Whether it's a camera, a boss, or just your own conscience." Mr. Kingsley stood up, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a key. But this wasn't the master key fob Jaden had used earlier. This was a single, heavy key made of solid platinum and carbon fiber. "You defended this car like it was your own," Mr. Kingsley said softly. "You put your body between it and a crazy woman. You showed me that you respect the legacy I built." He pressed the platinum key into Jaden's palm and closed the boy's fingers around it. "I think it's time we take it for a test drive. Properly this time. You sit in the front seat. I'll drive." Jaden's eyes went wide as saucers. He looked at the key, then at the car, then at his dad. "The Aurora?" Jaden gasped. "Dad, are you serious? It's $3.5 million. We can't drive it. What if it gets dirty? What if it gets a scratch?" Mr. Kingsley smiled, a genuine, wide smile that lit up his face. "It's just metal and carbon fiber, Jaden," he said, walking toward the driver's side. "You are my son. You are worth more than everything in this showroom combined. If it gets dirty, we'll wash it. Together." Jaden beamed. It was the smile of a boy who had just won the lottery, not of money, but of love. He ran to the passenger side of the beast. He climbed in, sinking into the bucket seat that smelled of fresh leather and victory. Mr. Kingsley got into the driver's seat. He pressed the ignition button. Vroom! The engine roared to life, a sound like a thunderstorm trapped in a bottle, shaking the glass walls of the showroom. As they pulled out of the showroom, slowly rolling past the glass windows, Jaden looked out. He saw Mr. Richards standing on the sidewalk outside, holding a cardboard box with his personal items, a stapler, a mug, a picture frame, looking miserable and lost. He saw Mrs. Sterling arguing with a taxi driver who wouldn't take her oversized bag. Jaden didn't laugh at them. He didn't gloat. He didn't roll down the window to yell an insult. He just watched them fade away in the side view mirror, becoming smaller and smaller until they were gone. His father accelerated, merging onto the open highway, driving into a bright, limitless future where the only thing that mattered was the road ahead. This story reminds us of a powerful truth that we often forget in our busy lives. We live in a world that is obsessed with appearances. We have been trained to judge people by the clothes they wear, the cars they drive, and the balance we imagine is in their bank accounts. Mrs. Sterling and Mr. Richards made the fatal mistake of judging Jaden by his dirty jumpsuit. They saw a street urchin, but they failed to see the character, the intelligence, and the heart underneath the grease. They assumed that because he looked poor, he had no value. But they forgot the golden rule. The wealthiest people don't always wear the loudest brands, and the most powerful people don't always need to shout to be heard. True class isn't about what you have. It's about how you treat others when you have nothing to gain from them. A suit doesn't make you a gentleman, and a designer dress doesn't make you a lady. Integrity does. So the next time you see someone in a service uniform, or someone working a humble job, or someone who looks like they don't belong in a fancy room, remember Jaden. Remember that everyone has a story. Everyone deserves respect, and you never know. The person you're looking down on today might be the person you have to answer to tomorrow. Never judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the most valuable treasure is hidden in the humblest package. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and share it with a friend who needs to hear this message. And remember, be kind, be humble, and always work hard. Thanks for watching.